Sejong the Great, the enlightened king of Joseon and the immortal gift to his people. Introduction. The voice of a nation. History is often written by warrior kings, men who used the sword to expand their borders and build mighty empires. But in the great river of history, there was one king who chose a completely different path. He did not conquer new lands. He conquered ignorance. His weapons were not swords and spears, but knowledge, science, and a boundless compassion. In the 15th century, in the kingdom of Joseon in Korea, millions of common people lived in a silent world. They could not read, they could not write. All official documents, laws, and scriptures were recorded in classical Chinese, an incredibly complex writing system that only the elite aristocracy had the privilege to learn. The grievances of a farmer, the precious knowledge of agriculture, the folk tales of the people, all were in danger of vanishing into silence. But there was a king who heard that silence. He saw the suffering of his subjects who had no voice, and he decided to carry out the greatest revolution in his nation's history, to give them a writing system of their own. He was King Sejong the Great. This is the epic of him, the enlightened king of Joseon. Chapter 1. The Foundation of a Golden Age. The book-loving prince and the Hall of Worthies. King Sejong ascended the throne in 1418, the fourth king of the Joseon dynasty. He inherited a relatively stable kingdom, built upon the solid foundation of Neo-Confucian ideology. Society was governed by a scholarly aristocratic class known as the Yangban, who held a monopoly on all political power and knowledge. From the time he was a prince, Sejong displayed extraordinary qualities. He was not passionate about hunting or conquest. He was passionate about reading. It is said that he read every book he could find, from the Confucian classics, history, and law to astronomy and medicine. His health was even affected by his habit of incessant reading. Upon becoming king, Sejong transformed his passion for knowledge into national policy. One of his first and most important acts was to establish the Hall of Worthies, or Jifyeonjeon. This was a royal academy that brought together the most brilliant and talented scholars in the entire kingdom. Under the king's patronage, the Hall of Worthies became the brain, the main engine for all the great inventions and reforms that would follow. The king had turned his palace into a great research institute. Chapter 2. The Scientific King, when the palace became a research institute. The reign of King Sejong was an explosion of science and technology, a true Korean Renaissance. The king was not just a patron, he was a direct participant and director of the research projects. The king and the genius inventor. One of the most moving stories is the relationship between King Sejong and Yeong-sil. Yeong-sil was born into the lowest social class, the Cheonmin. But he was a genius inventor and engineer. King Sejong recognized his extraordinary talent, broke all class barriers to bring him into the palace, and entrusted him with the most important responsibilities in scientific development. Inventions ahead of their time. Under the king's direction and with Yeong-sil's talent, a series of astounding inventions were born. The Jagyeongnu, automatic water clock. This was no ordinary water clock. It was a complex automated machine with wooden figures that would automatically rise to strike bells, drums, and gongs to announce the time with precision. The Chugugi rain gauge. This is considered the world's first standardized rain gauge, created over 200 years before its European counterpart. It allowed the court to systematically collect rainfall data from across the nation, an invaluable tool for an agricultural state. Astronomy. Sejong was a passionate astronomer. He commissioned observatories, created celestial globes and star maps, and reformed the calendar system for greater accuracy. Military technology. He also sponsored the development of new weapons, including new types of cannons, and especially the multiple rocket arrow launcher known as the Hwacha, a weapon of terrifying destructive power. Sejong's reign proved that a king's greatness lies not only in expanding territory, but also in expanding the boundaries of knowledge. Chapter 3. Hunminjeongeum, the Greatest Revolution. Of all his achievements, there was one project that King Sejong nurtured in secret, a project more daring and revolutionary than all his scientific inventions combined. This was the creation of a new writing system for the Korean people, the agony of silence. At that time, Koreans only used classical Chinese, or Hanja, as their official script. But the Korean and Chinese languages are completely different in their grammar and phonology. Using Chinese characters to record the Korean language was incredibly difficult and inefficient. Furthermore, Hanja has thousands of complex characters, which only the elite aristocracy had the time and money to learn. The common people, the vast majority, were completely illiterate. They could not read the laws, could not write a petition to protest an injustice, could not record their own agricultural knowledge. The secret project and the birth of Hangul, King Sejong was deeply saddened by this reality. He secretly worked with the most talented scholars in the Hall of Worthies on an extraordinary project to create a completely new alphabet designed specifically for the phonetics of the Korean language. This new writing system, initially called Hunminjeongeum, or the proper sounds for the instruction of the people, is a masterpiece of linguistic science. The consonant characters like G, Ki, Ki, K, Ki, Shu, G, N, A, and S, S are designed based on the very shape of the speech organs, such as the tongue, lips, and teeth when making that sound. The vowel characters like U, heaven, U, earth, and I, human, were created from a simple philosophy of the harmony of the trinity of heaven, earth, and humanity. The system was astonishingly simple. As King Sejong himself wrote, "A wise man can learn them in a morning, and a fool can learn them in the space of 10 days. The resistance of the elite. However, when this project was announced, it met with fierce opposition from the very class of Confucian scholars. Led by the scholar Choi Man-ri, they submitted a memorial to the king, vehemently protesting. They argued that creating a barbaric script was a betrayal of the great Chinese civilization, and that a literate populace would upset the social order. But King Sejong stood firm in defense of his invention. He refuted all their arguments, asserting that the new script was a gift, a tool to enlighten and bring justice to all his subjects, regardless of their class. Chapter 4: The Legacy of Light. In 1446, King Sejong officially promulgated the Hunminjeongeum, along with a book explaining the new writing system in detail. Immediately, he ordered the use of the new script, later known as Hangul, to publish books to disseminate knowledge to the people, such as books on agriculture, medicine, and ethical stories. Despite this, the Yangban aristocracy continued to look down upon Hangul and used only Hanja for centuries afterward. But Hangul did not die. It lived a silent life, spreading among the common people, especially among women and folk writers. It was not until the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when Korean nationalism rose strongly in the face of foreign threats, that Hangul was truly embraced as the symbol of the nation's soul and identity. During the period of Japanese colonial rule, when the Japanese tried to erase Korean culture, it was Hangul that became a weapon of resistance. Conclusion: the greatest king, King Sejong the Great, passed away in 1450, leaving behind an unparalleled legacy. He reigned during a time of peace, laying the foundation for a brilliant flourishing of culture and science. Among his countless achievements, Hangul is his greatest and most immortal legacy. It is not merely an alphabet. It was an act of liberation, a gift of knowledge and equality that the king bestowed upon his people. By creating Hangul, King Sejong gave every Korean the ability to read, to write, and to raise their own voice. Today, his image is on the 10,000 won banknote of South Korea, and Hangul is considered one of the most scientific and easy-to-learn writing systems in the world. King Sejong the Great is revered by the Korean people not for the lands he conquered, but for the millions of minds he enlightened. He is forever the greatest king, the king of the people.